So I'm going to talk to you about integrated corridor management, which is something that we have a lot of great interest in Texas. So hopefully you all know a good bit about this. But it's a program where you think about a parallel highway, a parallel transit operation, and a parallel arterial, and trying to operate them together as a network to take advantage of the assets that you have in place and the technology you have to move people and goods as efficiently as possible. And so we created this program a while ago trying to help bring the industry together and demonstrate and evaluate how some of these integrated approaches and strategies would work. And then through doing this program through the federal government, provide institutional guidance and operational capabilities and provide technical methods that would allow future deployers to implement these sorts of strategies. So let me talk a little bit about some of the building blocks. First is institutional. Integration, while it can work on a technical basis, you need the institutions to come together. You need the state DOT, the transit operator, the MPO, all the cities along a corridor, your suppliers, travelers, coming together with a desire to collaborate, desire to share information, to help move people and goods as efficiently as possible. Next, you need operational integration. You need to think about strategies that work across different partners to make things more effective. And I'll talk more about some of those applications, but shifting travelers from freeways to transit. So you need to have data about those different operational entities and be able to look at capacity and have management decisions and capability that are proactive in moving people as effectively as you can. And then finally, you need that technical aspect. You need those center-to-center standards. You need the technology in place so you can share data, you can make operational decisions, you can provide traveler information. And so when you wed these operational, institutional, and technical things together, you're able to accomplish integrated corridor management. So several years ago, we put out a solicitation and we got 8 different pioneer sites to work with us. Dallas, Houston, and San Antonio were all pioneer sites working with us and looking at how do we define this concept of corridor management. How does that state DOT really work with that transit operator, really work with that city and share data? How do you have ramp meters that are tied into the traffic signals? How do you know if parking is available so if you send someone to that transit station that they're able to actually park their vehicle, or that the bus or light rail or subway has capacity to absorb those travelers? So we worked with these pioneer sites from across the country to define the concept. Think about the requirements and think about, are we really ready to integrate these different systems from that institutional, operational, and technical perspective? We then chose 3 of them to model some of the strategies, so Dallas, Minneapolis, and San Diego, to look at modeling capabilities and simulation, and will we really get benefits if you're trying to move riders from a freeway to a frontage road or from a frontage road to a transit operation? If we integrate signal timing with ramp meter timing, what can we improve travel time reliability? Can we move more people from point A to B than we're able to do when we operate these things independently? And then finally, the stage we're in right now, we picked 2 sites to do a demonstration. So Dallas and San Diego are those 2 sites. I'm happy to talk to you about both of those today. But since we did that program and started the process, the concept of corridor management, the concept of managing a network together as one entity has spread. We think there's at least 300 corridors across the country that would benefit from integrated corridor management type strategies. And these dots are just places where we've held workshops, we've had listening sessions, we provided training to these different cities that are interested in these kind of concepts that we'll talk more about today. So here's the schedule. It's taken longer than we all thought. It must have been the institutional operational integration. But we started with concepts of operation and modeling. And then we started with a demonstration phase. And one thing we recognized, both Dallas and San Diego, is that went into that demonstration, they had to revisit their requirements. They had to really make sure that they defined the system well, that they defined the performance metrics, that they knew what they were going to try to accomplish. And then in October, about a year ago, Dallas went live. And then later in January, San Diego went live. They're a year-long operation. We're doing pre- and post-evaluations, and I'll talk to you more about the evaluation metrics and what we're trying to understand from these demonstration programs. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the strategies, and I made a little bit of a mistake in thinking that our Todd and Andy were going to talk about ICM, but they're going to talk mostly about 511. So I apologize that if I had paid more attention, this would have a lot more Dallas information than San Diego information, but we have some of both. So a couple of strategies Dallas is looking at is how do they divert traffic when there's a major incident onto frontage roads, onto the parallel arterials, or onto the light rail, depending on the severity of the incident, the status of those facilities in real time. Can they handle that diversion? Are they operating in an effective way? Can they handle the passenger load that the light rail might need, or the parking that they might need to be able to facilitate that? Dynamic signal timing to maximize throughput on those diversion routes. So they implemented and upgraded some of the traffic signal timing in situations that they do. Providing real-time information on conditions and speeds, transit, parking through 511, and that they'll talk a lot about today. And then from an operational perspective, it's providing diversion recommendations, changing dynamic message signs, changing signal timing. So it's all those things the operators need to do in their traffic management center. So those are some of the key strategies that Dallas is doing. San Diego is doing a lot of the similar sort of things. They're providing in-route and pre-trip traveler information through their 511 system. They've created a 511 smartphone app to supplement that. They're coordinating the signal timing with the ramp meters they have to really optimize how they are moving traffic to and from the highway to the parallel arterials. They're putting dynamic wayfinding on some of these key arterials to help people understand how to divert back. So at the heart of an integrated corridor management system is a decision support system. So this is a system that is taking data from your traffic management center, from your transit management center, from your HOV managed lane system, from your toll lane, from your incident response system. All these different systems come together in real time and share data. But what they're doing that might be different is they've established performance metrics around moving people or travel time reliability, that then they're doing real-time modeling and analytics to predict the impact of implementing different sorts of actions. And so there's a whole lot of simulation going on, meso micro simulation, business process visualization, data fusion, and trying to figure out what is the strategies or set of strategies that are going to have the best impact given the level of impact from the incident or situation that's causing you to try to decide to implement a new strategy. So I'll talk a little bit about the process and what they're doing in San Diego to kind of articulate this. They have a prediction process, so they're constantly running the modeling analysis to look 60 minutes ahead, understanding the traffic and changing the demand so that based on a lot of real-time and historic data they have, to look 5 minutes ahead and figure out what is impact, what's the impact. They look at capacity, they look at the availability of that, the posture, what is the operational concept and the performance metric they're trying to achieve, and they run a few different scenarios to determine which is the suite of applications and strategies to implement to make that desired change, and will it have a benefit. They evaluate these strategies over a 15-minute interval to look at versus doing nothing, are they going to have an impact? Are they going to create a benefit from implementing the strategy that's all of a sudden diverting a lot of people to a parallel arterial or sending people to the transit? And then they ultimately, based on the decisions and metrics they have, they either decide to implement a control measure or do nothing. And so that kind of runs through sort of this decision support process. San Diego's doing it in an automated way. Dallas has these similar steps, but also has a person in the loop to help validate decision making and make some of these strategies. So this is just a screenshot, but what I'm trying to illustrate with this is the 4 suites of maps they have that all look the same. One of them is the do nothing, when that has sort of 0, nothing's going to change. And then these other 2 are other 3 are different suites of strategies, A, B, and C. And the plan A on the far right has a 5.9, meaning that is going to have the most benefit if you implement that suite of scenarios. So they would select that, and various different things would happen. And so in San Diego right now, they have an open data feed on their highway, transit, arterial information that they're publishing, so people can get this real-time information. They have an operating decision support system. They are making strategies and implementation depending on the situation. When they went live, one of the challenges was they had this system automated, and they needed to check is, do they agree with the recommendations that were being made? Would their operators have done the same thing, or would they have done something different? And so there was a lot of, coming back to the institutional coordination, they had weekly meetings in the first few phases of the rollout to look at every time an incident or a strategy was put into place, how did that function? And so they had it on, but they weren't implementing the strategies at first, and they were using it and bringing in the operators and saying, this is what the system would have recommended. Let's look at what we did. How does it match? Would we have used it? The second stage, they went more into implementing some of the actions, and they were able to reduce the amount of coordination meetings, but they still went and looked at sort of after-action reports for major incidents and see how the system was operating. And now they're down to quarterly reviews of looking at how they come together and change. The biggest thing they've learned is the performance metrics they set were not very aggressive, so the system wasn't making control actions as aggressively as it could have. And so but they are confident with the strategies that are being recommended. So they're throttling down that control spot so that they will use the system and implement change more regularly. And so they're kind of trying to get to that process of when do they want to make these dynamic changes. So programmatically, we have Dallas and San Diego implementing these systems, and we've been doing an independent evaluation. And as what are we trying to understand with these programs? And one of the big things, and I think is a resounding yes, that both our sites would say is, have we improved situational awareness? Do you understand your system better? You understand do the text people focusing on highways now understand what's going on in the parallel city streets, so they understand what's going on in transit? Yes. Similarly, the transit officials know what's going on in these other systems that they did not know before. And so it's not that this was anything new per se, but bringing all that data together, sharing it, and the effort of trying to come up with common performance metrics. So it's not just about transit ridership. It's not just about incident response. It's about moving people and goods. And so they have that. Enhanced response and control capabilities. So we have a suite of strategies we've been developing with these different sites, and they're implementing. And so we're in the process right now of trying to understand which ones are more effective, when are they effective. Our modeling analysis told us that in medium to high demand is when we were going to have the biggest impact of these sort of strategies, and those situations happen 50 to 60 times a year at least in most of major metropolitan areas. So we're in the process of doing the evaluation. What I know is Dallas has 5 to 10 different incidents in which they implement their strategies on a weekly basis. So the system is used regularly. It's used basically every day. Do we provide better information to travelers? Are travelers now getting a better picture of their travel options and the situation on their freeway, arterial, and transit system? Are they getting a holistic view? And so through the 511 implementations in both locations and some of the other traveler information scenarios, we think that they will be. So we're doing this, but we're also doing a travel behavior survey. And so we're going out and surveying these travelers before and after to get a better picture of what they think and has this system impacted and benefited them. And then, of course, have we improved the corridor's performance? You know, are we really moving more people, more goods, more reliably? And then did the impact air quality or safety? Were the benefits more than the cost? What role did the decision support system? One of the things that came about as we were choosing between these 8 sites of where to do the demonstrations, one of the things that fell out is we picked the 2 of them that had really the most complex ones, that were using technology, using advanced simulation and decision making, because we said if we didn't do that then, it wouldn't get done. I mean, so we could pick ones that are using simpler processes, maybe not using as robust modeling and simulation, and you can always do that. But we thought that from a demonstration, from a federal perspective, we'd wanted to push the edge related to technology and capabilities and data analytics. So we're trying to really understand what role that has played. Are they effective? Are they effective for the cost? And what do you have to do to get ready to put a decision support system in that you're going to trust? And then what were the other institutional organizational factors related to making ICM a success? So our evaluation approach, obviously we're doing a before and after, looking at the impacts. Of course, there's a lot of changes going on in these corridors. They're not just static. There's a lot of construction, a lot of different things going on. That makes it a bit of a challenge. But we're looking at real-time data. We're doing a panel survey for our travel behavior. We're looking in depth at every major incident that happens and looking at analysis from that situation to understand what happened on that day, what were the impacts of the strategies, how did they go about. We're looking at air quality modeling, and then we're doing a lot of modeling and simulation because, as we indicated, there are at least 30 to 50 incidents of these types that can happen on a yearly basis, and so we want to translate that out to a broader scale. So we completed the pre-data analysis. That should be published later this year. The post-deployment analysis is underway, and interim results from the first 6 to 9 months of operations should be available next summer. But what I wanted to share is some of the lessons learned and some of the benefits that the sites have talked to us about. So this is just, we pulled this from presentations they made last month at ITS World Congress. One of the biggest things is, and this might come as a surprise because you would think, why aren't we doing this already? But they've been forced to communicate with their partners more regularly, more often, but I would also say with a joint purpose. They have defined common metrics that they're working towards, and that has helped them facilitate the conversation they need to have related to ICM. Applying the system engineering process. I mean, it's a requirement, but it is critical in this sort of situation in terms of the technical capabilities and looking at the systems that you're trying to bring together, using center-to-center standards, using the technology. Data collection and processing, it's important. We're doing an independent evaluation that's put more focus on it, but really understanding your data is very important if you're going to establish performance metrics. And you need to understand the quality of it so you can be confident that the systems using data are going to generate results that your operators trust. Deciding the performance metrics early in the process. As you design a system, you need to know what you're designing it for. So re-looking at that and getting agreements, looking at funding and how you operate and maintain this over the long run. Doing detailed requirements walkthroughs with your system integrators and all your operators and system, so you make sure you're developing this for what the users want and how they want to manage the operation. And then incorporating modeling and the methodology related that into transportation planning in general, and San Diego's been pushing that as part of one of the processes they're doing. So we have a major technology transfer program in place with this program. We've been creating guidance documents. We have an implementation guide. We have an analysis, modeling, and simulation guide. For every of the demonstration sites and even the Pioneer sites, we have ConOps and requirements from 8 different sites. But beyond that, for the 2 demonstration sites, we have high-level design documents, detailed design, system acceptance testing, and evaluation test plans available. We're posting those all online so people can understand what these sites have gone through and what these systems are capable of doing. The other thing we do is we provide workshops to other cities that want to implement. We bring in peers oftentimes. We'll bring in Dallas or San Diego, or we'll bring in system integrators, and we'll do hands-on workshops to help people understand the concepts in planning, or if they're beyond that, help them think about how they want to model and analyze the system and the performance metrics.